up guys, Ali here for another Today in Retro video. This is a follow-up video to my Game Boy Camera video, and today we'll be discussing two spiritual successors to the Game Boy Camera. One created by Nintendo that was quietly canned, and the other being an unlicensed product that ended up actually being released. So without further ado, let's get into it. So first, before we really get into the meat of the video, I highly recommend watching my Game Boy Camera video first, because a lot of the things I'm going to be discussing in this video reference the previous video, and this is kind of just a natural continuation of that video, since I figured the Game Eye and the WormCam were enough on their own to warrant their own video.
Nintendo Game Boy Advance has sold 6 million units since it was released last June, and it pretty much stands alone as the only portable gaming device. Here at E3, we not only found accessories for the GBA, but also some other ways to game on the go.
In the previous video, I showed off the Game Boy Camera prototype that was shown off at GDC 2009, so continuing from that point, apparently Nintendo actually had plans to release a successor to the Game Boy Camera for the Game Boy Advance called the Game Eye. Also, to interject, that's the most early 2000s product name I've ever heard.
Also from Nintendo, this is the Game Eye, a tiny camera that will store your pictures onto your Game Boy Advance. This working prototype includes a 2x digital zoom. The Game Eye can be used as a standalone device, but in this demo, when linked to the GameCube, the Game Eye really gets you into the game. Nintendo says the Game Eye is still in development and is only planned for Japanese release.
Continuing on, this successor would be able to take color, photos that have connectivity with a GameCube title called Stage Debut. But neither of these products actually ever saw a retail release. Stage Debut was intended to be released in 2004, but it was indefinitely delayed, most likely because of the cancellation of the Game Eye. Stage Debut was similar to the game Mario Artist Talent Studio that was developed for the N64 DD peripheral. You would take a picture of yourself using the Game Eye camera, then you link your Game Eye to the GameCube and you can insert the image onto a 3D model within the game. This really strongly reminds me of Face Raiders on the 3DS and also another similar title released on the DSi, if anybody here has played that. Miyamoto mentioned in a 2008 interview with IGN that Stage Debut was the inspiration for the Wii's Mi Channel function, interestingly enough. Also, as we all know now, the DSi and 3DS eventually saw built-in cameras for both of those systems. So while the Game Eye never actually saw a retail release, interestingly enough, a third-party company, Nyko, created a spiritual successor to the Game Boy Camera called the WormCam.
We got a sneak peek at Nyko's WormCam. The attachment turns your GBA into a full-featured digital camera. The picture quality is comparable to a webcam, and features include simple editing, slideshow, and PC linking. There is no zoom, but for under $50, we were still impressed. Look for the WormCam in stores by the fall.
Anyway, the WormCam enabled players to take color photos on their Game Boy Advance and transfer them to their computer. This actually, real quick, reminds me of the GB Kiss that Hudson Soft released. I made a video on that previously where you could connect your Game Boy to your computer. The camera, surprise, was not authorized by Nintendo. According to IGN in the review of the WormCam is, quote, an extremely disappointing peripheral in features and in function. Since the device was not a licensed device by Nintendo, the way the developers got around all of this was that the device plugged into the link port of the Game Boy Advance. This is a pretty clever move by the developers, considering how the GBA works when there isn't a cartridge in the slot. The GBA will boot into a wait state while the system waits for a file transfer through the link port. This wait state is similarly used when players are downloading a file from their GameCube, for example. The file then gets transferred into the system memory and then boots from there. The WormCam basically tricks the Game Boy Advance into thinking there's a file coming from another system and loads as a mini file directly into the RAM. While this was a clever move by the devs, it significantly reduces the usage and ability of the WormCam. The link port is super slow to transfer data, which means it's too slow to even show a live preview of the camera feed. To successfully take a picture with the WormCam, you basically have to take a shot in the dark, literally, to where the lens is aimed, hold the right shoulder button, which is the shutter, and then wait for the image to be drawn on the screen, which takes about 5 to 6 seconds. Then if that picture doesn't come out how you want it, you have to readjust and repeat. To no one's surprise, the WormCam takes terrible pictures even indoors with normal lighting. Even if you're taking a picture outside with the most optimal lighting conditions, the image quality with this device still isn't the greatest. On the bright side, the software used with the WormCam to get your pictures from your GBA to your PC is pretty easy to install and it works relatively fine, though it does have a few sloppy errors and not the greatest UI. IGN also notes in the review that the device definitely won't be compatible with any Game Eye titles, which were at that point intended to be released within the next year, so you can't take WormCam pictures and transfer them to a GameCube Game Eye title. While the device is inexpensive, you're better off buying an actual digital camera given the price of the GBA and the terrible quality of the WormCam. It would be interesting to see how things would be different if the Game Eye actually saw a retail release. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know as usual if you have any other topic suggestions for the next Today in Retro video. Make sure you check out my other social media, sub, like, comment, all that stuff if you like the video. And yeah, I will see you guys around. Make sure to check out my Twitch stream. I stream every day at 6 p.m. Eastern, twitch.tv/Alley. And yeah, I'll see you guys around. Bye!